Hello, I'd like to do a video response to a recent Steve Shives video disagreeing with the sentiment that purely philosophic arguments against God are not as strong and are not really strong at all against when you're arguing against the existence of God, whereas he really needs the scientific arguments to do it. I think it's actually the other way around. Purely philosophic arguments against God are much, much more strong than scientific arguments. Before we start, I have to define two terms: contingent truths and necessary truths. Necessary truths are things which are true in all possible worlds. What I mean by possible worlds is all possible future situations. So there is no future situation in which 2 plus 2 will not equal 4. 2 plus 2 will always equal 4. Also, there's no future situation in which a contradiction can exist. So these are necessary truths, whereas contingent truths are things which are true if certain conditions hold. So most truth is contingent. For instance, even the idea that the sun will continue to rise in the morning is contingent on the solar system being as it is now. And we know it's contingent mainly because we know in the future that there won't even be a sun. And it's still contingent because it's logically conceivable for the sun not to rise. The thing about necessary truths is that you can't even conceive of a necessary truth not being true. You can't even conceive of 2 plus 2 equaling something other than 4. And you can't even conceive of a logical contradiction existing. Whereas contingent truths are conceivably false. So yeah, science deals in contingent truths, whereas philosophy deals in contingent and necessary truths. And science deals with how matter is, whereas philosophy deals with the really abstract stuff. Now into my point about why philosophic arguments against God are stronger than scientific arguments. All science can really do when it comes to the existence of God is to say, well, there's no proof of a God, therefore we cannot assert that there is one, although we still leave out the hope, we leave out the possibility that maybe in the future we will find evidence of a God. Whereas philosophy, I think, is powerful enough to actually prove that there can be no God at all, ever. And it can do this using the agnostic route. Agnosticism is the idea of God is an empty, nonsensical concept from the start. So an agnostic is not even on the agnostic scale or the atheist scale, because the agnostic holds that God is an incoherent concept. And hence, it's not so much about proving a negative in terms of philosophy proving that there is no God. It's more of a proving that this is a empty, nonsensical concept, as bad as just making up as bad as almost saying that there's a married bachelor. It's a incoherent concept that can't even get off the ground. It can make arguments such as something that exists outside of the natural world by definition does not exist. Hence, anything that's truly supernatural is truly fictional. So, because the thing is that while science doesn't do this, philosophy does do concept analysis. In other ways, it can take a concept and just logically analyze it, like as far as you can possibly analyze a word or an idea. And I think you can make a big case that philosophy can crush the idea of God entirely by simply proving through a concept analysis that the very word God really doesn't make any sense. It doesn't really refer to anything. I mean, for one, if something's truly, especially I'm referring to the Christian concept of a God, if something doesn't have like defined characteristics, for instance, it's made up of this type of elements, has these colors, has these like attributes. If you can't stick any hard attributes to something which apparently exists, such as a God, then it has to be an imaginary thing or a concept. But those who believe in God believe that God is more than just an idea, They believe that he actually exists. But the definition of God seems to imply something which doesn't exist, something which is like an idea. Hence, it appears that God is an incoherent concept. And hence, while science cannot prove that God doesn't exist, philosophy can prove that God doesn't exist. Hence, purely philosophic arguments against God and for atheism, or for agnosticism possibly, are 100 times stronger and holds way more water than scientific arguments. Now, before anyone freaks out and says science is awesome, I like science. Science is great. We need science. If we didn't have science, everything would suck really bad. I just think philosophy is cool too. So yeah.